Yeah, we share vehicles with the airport location, so when we have thousands of vehicles on site at airports, we use handheld scanners to scan the VIN numbers of the vehicles so we can track them for inventory.
Okay. And do those vehicles keep that same barcode whether they come from South Carolina and come to Georgia, or do they get new barcodes when they come to Georgia?
They keep the same because it's the full VIN of the vehicle, so it stays with the vehicle.
Okay. Okay. When Mr. Neuman was there, and you indicated before that he was in a hurry, about how long would you say he was there before he actually left the location?
Yeah, it was about 20-25 minutes before he left our location.
Okay. And when he left, did he seem satisfied that you'd given him the van?
Yes.
Okay. Were there any, with his impatience and his need to be on the road and his hurry, were there any harsh words or anything exchanged?
No.
Okay. So it was just his demeanor?
Yes.
Okay. Now, when he returned the vehicle, do you know what time he returned it? If you can go to page 1. You know what time he was scheduled to return the vehicle? If we look down at the bottom of page 1, just below his signature there.
3 p.m.
Okay. And looking at the paperwork, do you know what time he actually did return the vehicle on the 18th?
Yes, he returned just after 11.
A.m. or P.m.?
A.m.
Now, does Enterprise have surveillance video at that particular location on Windy Hill?
We do.
Okay. And how does the video system work? Is it something that is kept stored permanently?
No.
Okay. How does that work?
It resets, so typically the video would run for about 30 days, and if we don't pull any video footage, it would just re-record over that, so we wouldn't be able to pull anything after about a 30-day frame.
Okay. So if investigators came to you about this rental after 30 days, would you have been able to provide them with any sort of video of the transaction with Hemy Neuman?
No.
Yeah, that's all the questions that I have.
Mr. Lang, you are cross-examined if you wish. You're welcome.
Good morning. It's Ms. Garish?
Yes.
When you were you still working at the Windy Hill location when the police came to talk to you about this case?
Yes.
And you remember giving them a statement?
Yes.
And you testified previously today that Mr. Neuman told you he was in a hurry, right?
Yes.
And he appeared to be in a hurry.
Yes.
You said he was fidgety.
Yes.
I think you also previously described him as impatient.
Yes.
And anxious, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And his behavior and his demeanor made you uneasy, correct?
Yes.
And that's part of why you went ahead and upgraded him to get him out of there, right?
Yep.
The particular vehicle that he rented, the Kia Sedona, you said it had South Carolina plates, correct?
Yes.
When he made the reservation, he didn't make a request that the car be from another state, did he?
No.
And the license plate that was on the vehicle when it left your lot was still on the vehicle when it returned, correct?
Yes.
Was there any indication that it had been removed or changed or anything like that?
No.
The identification that Mr. Neuman provided, you said was his driver's license, correct?
Yes.
And that's typically the form of identification you require, correct?
Yes.
Make sure the person is legally driving your vehicles, right? Was there anything about his driver's license that caused you any concern?
No.
No reason to believe that it was fraudulent or fake?
No.
The cameras, the surveillance cameras that you have on property, are there signs saying that there's surveillance?
I do not recall.
Okay. Are the cameras fairly obvious?
Yes.
could just have a moment, please.
You may.
Is it unusual for somebody to use a credit card to reserve the vehicle and then pay in cash?
No.
Thank you.
Any redirect?
Briefly, Your Honor.
Ask as many questions as you wish.
He indicated that defense just asked you that he made you uneasy?
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay. Did he make you any more uneasy than you would be with any customer that you feared would be dissatisfied with your service?
No.
That's all the questions I have here.
Any recalls?
No, Judge.
Lawyer, may this witness be released and excused her subpoena? Do you want her to remain on the subpoena?
She can be released, Your Honor. She can be released.
Pretty good. Have a good day. Thank you. Have a nice trip back to the airport. All right, next witness.
The state calls Scott Watson to the
You
scene.
may.
Go ahead and have a seat. Raise your right hand. You solemnly swear to affirm that the testimony shall give this court should be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
Please stand and spell your name for the record.
Jeffrey Scott Watson, Jeffrey Scottwatson.
Mr. Watson, in November 2010, where were you working?
I was working for Securitas Security Services. We were the contracted security company that provided monitoring of the GE campus,
Okay, the GE campus, is that General Electric?
General Electric.
Okay, and where would you report for work each day?
The 4200 building most of the time.
Okay. Explain to the jurors, please, a little bit, when you say the GE campus, the GE offices, was it more than one building or just one building?
We were located in 4 buildings around campus. There was the 4200 building, the 3200 building, 1300 and 2800, 2018. They were all centrally located in the Windy Hill area.
Which building of the 4 was considered the main building?
The 4200 building was the main.
And that's where you went to work every day?
Correct.
All right. Do you know the defendant in this case?
I know who he is, yes.
You know how do you know who he is?
He worked at General Electric at the time that I worked there.
Okay. And would you recognize him by sight when you saw him?
I
When you
would.
both worked there at GE?
Yes.
Okay. What would you do, or what were your responsibilities as the account manager or the director of security at the GE main building?
All right. I was primarily in charge of maintaining the crew of guards. We had a crew of about between 15 and 18 guards. I took care of all of their needs. I was the direct link between the client, which was General Electric, and my company, Securitas. And then I was also in charge of monitoring all the camera systems, the access control systems, all the security systems around campus.
Oh, security system.
Yes.
Okay, you talked about a camera system. What kind of camera system did GE have in November 2010 for its campus, those 4 buildings that you told us about?
It was a large camera system. I hesitate to say it was well over 100 cameras scattered out between the 4 buildings.
And you mentioned something about access monitoring or access control. What is it that you're talking about when we talk about access control or monitoring?
Okay, anyone that was on the GE property had to have an access card, either one that was issued to them with their photo on it by GE or a visitor badge. They have to use these to move around campus. You can't go up the elevators without using one. You can't go into the building without using one. You can't access certain rooms without using it. So we're constantly monitoring a steady scroll of who is badging in where, who is going where at what time throughout the day.
Okay. And is that something that it was just, you needed, let me ask you this, were GE employees, how were they able to get around the different buildings and the different areas of the campus that you said were monitored or controlled?
Again, they had to have a card, an access card. All the doors have magnetic locks on them. You had to scan your card in order to get in.
Were each employees, was every employee issued an individual employee badge?
Yes,
Okay. And would that badge give them access to whatever areas they were authorized to be in?
that's correct.
Okay. Well, what if an employee forgot their employee badge that day? What would happen?
They could report to a security desk, provide ID, proving who they said they were. We'd verify employment. At that point, we could issue them a visitor badge, a numbered visitor badge that they could use to get pretty much where they needed to go.
And those visitor badges, could you just kind of roam free if you had a visitor badge? Could you go anywhere in the buildings that you wanted to go?
Except for restricted access areas, computer labs, places where there was sensitive information.
Okay. So if I were visiting the GE campus in November 2010 and I wanted to get on the elevator, I'm not a GE employee, what would I have to have with me?
An escort if you were not a GE employee.
Okay. If I were a GE employee and I wanted to get on the elevator, what would I need to have?
You'd have to have a visitor's badge that provided elevator access.
Okay. And if I were a GE employee and I had my own employee badge, could I use that?
Yes,
Okay. What about the doors? Would I need a badge to get into any of the entrance doors or the exit doors to any of these buildings on the GE campus?
you mean exterior doors?
Exterior doors.
Yeah, if the only exterior doors that you did not have the badge to go through was manned 24/7 by a security officer. So the only time you could walk in without scanning is if there was an officer sitting at a desk verifying who you were.
Okay. When the badges used, are records made?
Yes,
What kind of records are made?
electronic records that are stored on a server.
All right. And are those records, are they accurate as to the date and time that somebody uses a badge?
They are.
And are they made on or about the time that the person actually uses the badge?
It's instantaneous, yes.
All right. You mentioned that there is an access door that is manned 24/7. There's a guard posted 24/7 at one entrance?
Yeah, are you talking about the 4200 building, the main building?
Please tell me, how many entrances are manned, or there's a guard station 24 hours a day in the 4200 building?
The main entrance has 2 guards there
Okay.
around the clock. And the other entrances are not, because you have to have a badge to get in those entrances.
Any of those other 3 buildings? Or, I'm sorry, any of the other entry doors for the 4200 building?
Correct.
Correct, okay. All right, Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Mr. Watson, I'm going to approach you with what has been previously identified as State's Exhibit number 37.
Okay.
Would you take a look at that, please, and let me know if you recognize State's Exhibit number 37?
I do recognize it.
And how do you recognize State's Exhibit number 37?
It's an event log created by the scanning of access badges.
Okay. And whose access badge is that State's Exhibit number 37 reflecting the activity of?
This is Hemy Neuman's access badge report.
When requested by investigators, did you turn that information over to the state?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state moves State's Exhibit number 37 into evidence.
Any objection? 37 is a met upon objection. You may publish it to the jury if you wish.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Watson, can you take a look at that and tell me what is the, tell me if State's Exhibit number 37, if that shows the activity of the defendant's employee access badge on November 18th, 2010?
It does.
And what does it say about what time the defendant arrived to work or first used his employee access badge on November 18th, 2010?
It would have been 5:37 a.m.
5:37 a.m.?
Yes, ma'am.
Does it tell you what door the defendant came in?
The main front door at the 4200 building.
You let us know that there was some security video and that there were 100-some cameras throughout the campus. Is there a camera that records the front entrance, the front lobby area of the 4200 building where you just said Mr. Neuman swiped his badge at 4:37 a.m.?
Yes, ma'am, there is.
Did you review the footage of that at the request of the state?
I did.
Did you turn that over to the state?
Well, yes, I did.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
I'm showing you what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit number 40. Do you recognize State's Exhibit number 40?
I do.
And how do you recognize State's Exhibit number 40?
That's the main lobby of the 4200 building. That's one of my officers there. And that would appear to be the defendant coming in.
All right, and is that still a single photo from the video footage that you pulled at the request of the state?
It is.
And is it true and accurate as to your recollection of the security video that you pulled in response to the state's request?
It is.
Your Honor, at this time we move State's Exhibit number 40 into evidence.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Or is there any objection? You may publish it if you wish.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Watson, can you take a look at that and see if it's got a timestamp on it?
It does. It's timestamped 5:39.
5:39. Is that military time or?
That's 5:39 a.m.
5:39 a.m.
Mhm.
May we publish that, please? I'm sorry, 5:39 a.m. I'm sorry, Your Honor, may I have one moment?
You may. We're back on the record.
Thank you, Your Honor. Are there also elevator cameras or cameras in the elevator area of the, right off the main lobby in the 4200 building?
There are.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Thank you. I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 41. Do you recognize State's Exhibit number 41, Mr. Watson?
I do.
And how do you recognize State's Exhibit number 41?
That's the camera pointed at the 3 elevators that make up the south bank of elevators in the 4200 building.
Is that photograph also a still photo that was taken from the video security that, the security video that you provided to the state?
Yes, it is.
And is it accurate, a fair and accurate representation of the portion of the video security that it purports to display?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, at this time we move State's Exhibit number 41 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection.
All right, without objection, you may publish if you wish.
Thank you. Can we see the elevator photo, please? The one that you just showed me. Thank you, Mr. Moore. Do you see the photograph on the screen in front of you there, Mr. Watson?
Yeah, I do.
All right, and can you tell the jurors, is there a time stamp and a date stamp on that?
There is. It's 5:39 and 22 seconds in the a.m.
That doesn't blow up very well, but are you able to see it clearly there on the exhibit?
Yes, it's
Okay.
timestamped on here as well.
All right. Can you take that off, please? Thank you. And you identified that to be the defendant, Hemy Neuman. Was that correct?
That's correct.
And how did you recognize him at the time?
Well, A, I recognized my client employees because I saw them on a daily basis. B, just used his card and was verified to be the correct person by the guard at the front desk.
Okay, so not only did Mr. Neuman use his card when he got in the building in the lobby, he also swiped it here to get on the elevator, as you told us he needed to do?
That's correct.
Okay. Do you recall where Mr. Newman's office was located in the 4200 building?
At the time, I believe it was the 4th floor.
State's Exhibit number 37, that was what you first told us about. That's the history of when the defendant used his badge that day.
Yes, ma'am.
November 18th, 2010. Other than swiping in to get into the lobby and using his card to get onto the elevator, as we just saw, when's the next time the defendant used his employee badge?
The next time would have been at 12:36 in the p.m.
12:36 p.m.?
Yes.
Where was the defendant when he used his badge at 12:36 p.m.?
At the elevator, the north elevator bank.
Thank you. Mr. Watson, is there a door, an access door, that an employee can leave the 4200 building without having to use his access code?
Yes, ma'am.
What door is that? Or is there more than one?
There was more than one. There was one that went out onto the patio by the cafeteria. There was one that went out through the basement. We call that the smoker's door because it led out toward the smoker section. And you didn't have to scan to leave any exit, but those two were unmanned.
Those two unmanned?
Correct.
How could you get from the 4th floor where Mr. Newman's office was down to the basement door if you weren't using the elevators?
You could take the evacuation route or the stairwell.
Did you need a badge to get into the stairwell?
No, you never required a badge to leave.
And why is that?
Fire marshal would not allow it.
Okay. All right. So you didn't need a badge to get into the stairwell. Did you need a badge to get out of the stairwell?
That's correct.
You did need a badge to get out of the stairwell?
Not leaving, but coming in, yes.
Coming in, all right. So if someone wanted to leave the 4th floor of the 4200 building and walk down the stairs and exit a building without having to show his badge or be seen by anyone, how would you do that?
The only way would be to use the stairwell.
Are there any cameras in or around that smoker's door, as you refer to it, that basement door?
There's a camera on that door, yes.
There's a camera on that door?
Yes.
And where does it lead out to beyond the place where the smokers would
It leads into the parking deck.
in the parking deck?
Yes.
Mr. Watson, at investigators' request, did you do anything with the surveillance video from this smoker's door entry and exit?
I did pull the footage from that door for that day and reviewed it, provided them with a copy of it.
What did you, what if anything did you find?
There was footage that morning of the defendant leaving. I'd have to see the...
There's footage of the defendant leaving, you recall seeing it?
There's footage of the defendant leaving. I can't remember the exact time.
Did you recently review the security video that you pulled in response to the state's request for that smoker's door?
I've reviewed the video.
You reviewed
yes.
it? May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
I'm handing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 39. Do you recognize State's Exhibit number 39?
I do.
And how do you recognize it?
That's the video footage that I provided of the smoker's door from that day.
And is there, did you mark that in any way?
I
after review?
initialed it. I
You
have
initialed
reviewed it, yes.
And when you reviewed it, were there any additions or deletions or from what you recall it being at the time you turned it over to the state?
No, it was the same video.
Okay, and it's fair and accurate representation of the video as you pulled it
Yes.
at the state's request. And at this time, we move State's Exhibit number 39 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection.
39 is a member for objection. You may publish it if you wish.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Watson, do you recall how long this video is?
It was a long video, but the portion that we concentrated on is just a few seconds.
Just a few seconds long? All right. Your Honor, may I publish at this time?
You may. You going to publish it in its entirety or a portion?
I'm going to publish a very small portion of it.
That's fine.
All right, before it begins, can you stop it 1 minute, Mr. Moore? What are we looking at, Mr. Watson? Actually, would you mind taking a step down here and you can come back up and just pause it for a moment? Thank you. Can you explain to the jurors what you're looking at?
This is leaving the building after coming down the stairwell or the elevator, whichever way you want to come down. This would be the door leading out into the parking garage.
Into the parking garage?
Yes.
Okay. And again, is there a date and a time stamp on that?
There is. This is the 18th at 5:50 a.m.
5:50 a.m.? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Moore. Can you play it? You may sit down. Thank you. Does it appear to you that the defendant's carrying anything with him?
No, it does not.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Mr. Watson, I'm going to show you what's already been marked as State's Exhibit number 42. Do you recognize State's Exhibit number 42?
I do.
And what is it?
It's a still shot from the video that we just watched.
The video we just watched?
Yes.
All right, and is it true and accurate in that it is a fair depiction of what we saw in the video and what was on the security video that you provided to the state?
It is.
Your Honor, at this time, we move State's Exhibit number 42 into evidence.
Any objection 42?
No, Your Honor.
42 is a member for objection. You may publish it to the view if you wish.
Thank you. Now, the defendant appears to be doing something with his hand. Can you tell what it is he's doing with his hand?
Yeah, that's just a release button to release the magnetic lock on the door.
Okay, that's not a swipe
No,
monitor or anything
no, that's
like
not a
that.
bad swipe. No, it's just a release button, just a...
Just release the door. And what time is the timestamp on that?
5:51 a.m.
5:51 a.m. All right, so we talked about And between the time that Mr. Newman is seen leaving the building here at 5:51 a.m. and the time you told us that he used his employee badge to get back into the GE campus about 12:36 p.m. Did you review other security video in relation to this case?
Yeah, there was more snippets of video that we gathered, yes.
Okay. And was the defendant seen returning to the GE campus anytime before, say, 11 a.m.?
No, not that I remember, no.
Mr. Watson, were you asked to review any information related to a visitor's badge or a visitor's pass on November 18th, 2011?
I was asked to pull those logs, yes.
You were?
Yes.
What were you asked to do?
I was asked to pull the records from the visitor kiosk where you have to sign in to get a visitor's badge, see if there was any indication that the defendant had obtained a visitor badge on that day.
Okay, and did you find anything when you reviewed that information?
I did.
What did you find? Do you recall?
I found that, yes, he had indeed checked out a visitor badge, if I remember correctly, a couple of them.
All right. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Mr. Watson, I'm handing you what has been marked as State's Exhibit number 38. And would you take a look at State's Exhibit number 38 and tell me if you recognize it?
I do.
And what do you recognize State's Exhibit number 38 to be?
The first page is a record of every time the defendant signed out a visitor badge between 2005 and 2011. The second page is a record of the visitor badges that were checked out the day of the 18th, the two that were checked out under that name, where they were used and what time.
Okay. And is that information fair and accurate and kept in the normal course of business as you've described to us that these records are generally kept?
Yes.
Your Honor, this time we move State's Exhibit number 38 into evidence.
You said number 38?
38, sir.
Any objection at 38?
No, Your Honor.
Maybe a minute, you may vote to the jury if you wish.
All right, thank you. Mr. Watson, can you tell the jurors what time did the defendant get a visitor's badge on November 18, 2010 to enter the GE campus, even though he had his own employee access card?
Would have been, looks like 11:48 a.m.
11:48 a.m.?
And yes, and that was at a different building.
Yes, so tell me about that. Is identified there on State's Exhibit number 38 by Atlanta and then a series of numbers. Do you recognize those numbers?
Yes. Yeah,
What's the location that the defendant checked out a visitor's badge on November 18, 2010 at 11:48 a.m.?
That would have been the 2018 building.
The 2018 building, and what's the 2018 building?
It's a satellite location from the main. It's a building. It was a shared tenant building that we were on 5 floors in that building.
Is that one of the 4 buildings you told us is part of the GE campus?
Yes.
Okay. And did you know Andrea Sneiderman?
I did.
Another GE employee?
I did.
You did? Would you recognize her by sight
I would.
when you were working there and she was working there?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know what office Ms. Sneiderman was working in during November 2010?
I remember that it was on the 2nd floor of the 2018 building. I remember the actual office number, but
And that's the building that the defendant signed in through a visitor's pass, is that right?
that's correct.
Okay. Any other activity for the defendant using a visitor's pass on November 18, 2010?
Not that badge.
Not that badge?
That badge was used once. It was enrolled, and it was used to access the 2nd floor, and that badge was not used again on that day.
Any other records of the defendant using a separate visitor's badge on November 18, 2010?
It shows that he checked out a second visitor's badge back at the 4200 building, the main building.
What time was that?
That was at 12:12 p.m.
How far away is the main building, 4200 building, where the defendant's office was, to the 2018 building where you just told us that he used a badge to gain access to the 2nd floor where Andrea Sneiderman's office location was at that time? How long does it take, or how far away are they?
It's maybe 3 blocks, maybe a mile, something like that.